Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
Whoever said a playoff series doesn't start until the road team wins a game has never been down 0-2 without home field advantage, which is where the Mavs find themselves now. The series shifts to Dallas, where the Mavericks need something, anything to go right. And the New York Giants offense will go as Malik Nabers goes. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started.
I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
The Boston Celtics won a close game in Game 2, 105-98, to take a 2-0 series lead. That's how math works. I'm not a math expert. John Corrales from Locked On Celtics. He's an expert on a lot of things. Math doesn't matter. Doesn't matter, John, if you are or not, but I bet you are. Drew Holiday, I can do the math on this one. 11 of 14 for 26 points, 11 rebounds. Right now, what is working for Drew Holiday?
What's working for him is the same thing that's been working for him all year long, is just doing all the little things to get him in a position, understanding the spacing, understanding the offense, that what they need him to do, what's required of the rest of the guys outside of Tatum and Brown, understanding how the defense is playing those guys and what he needs to be. Jason Tatum, once again, they doubled him, they tripled him, they threw a bunch of bodies at him. Once again, a ton of assists for Tatum. 6 of those assists went to Drew Holiday, who was down there in the dunker spot, who was out there in the three-point line. He just kept on finding himself in the right spots, and that's what he does. He does all the little things that add up to winning.
You mentioned Jason Tatum. There's going to be there would be a lot more discourse about Jason Tatum if they were not up 2-0. But 16 points in Game 1, 18 points in this one, although cut the turnovers in half. Why is he not able to get to his spots? Why is the shot not falling? 16 of 22. In the-
I mean, he said it. He literally just walked out from the presser where he's like, I got to shoot better. Golly. He knows that he needs to shoot better. Look, and again, it's the way the Mavs are playing him is they want the ball out of his hands. They're saying, we can't let Jason Tatum beat us. Now, the way he's shooting, maybe you do want to let Jason Tatum try to beat you because he hasn't been hitting his shots. But it's one of those things where I don't want to define how good he was playing by the shots that he made or didn't make. I thought the shots that he took were good. Some of them didn't fall, but he's consistently making the right play. He was, I think, a rebound shy of a triple-double.
Yep.
He's doing all of the things that he needs to do. And as he said to us after the game, he said, whatever it takes, it's if I need to have 17 potential assists a game for us to win, then sign me up. He's matured. He understands that. And again, as he said, why would I let my ego get in the way of something that's working? He's been here before, trying to do it his way, didn't work. And now getting off the ball when he's double teamed, finding his teammates, relocating and hitting some shots when he gets a catch and shoot opportunity. That's all part of winning. And it doesn't matter that he hasn't hit his shots because other guys are there. That's why the Celtics are built this way, because sometimes it'll be Holiday, sometimes it'll be Derek White, sometimes Jaylen Brown or Porzingis or Horford. The Celtics are good enough and have enough good players where if Tatum isn't hitting his shots and they're forcing him to pass, he's like, yeah, go ahead. You guys can play 4-on-3, and the 4 that we've got is better than the other 3 that you got.
I can't let you go without asking you to weigh in on what has been a big discussion point over the last couple of days, and that is this Tatum versus Brown, who is the best player. Even Drew Holiday said, hey, maybe it is Jaylen Brown, basically. I think the answer is it doesn't matter right now But do you feel it changing at all?
No, I don't. They're playing two different roles. And again, they're throwing a lot at Tatum, and they're not throwing the same defense at Jaylen Brown. And that's not to say that Jaylen couldn't handle it. I'm just saying that if they threw the Tatum defense at Jaylen Brown, he would be passing more and not scoring as much. And maybe Tatum would be getting a lot more one-on-one looks. And so I think, look, Jason Kidd's trying to play a mind game. And to be fair, Holiday came in and before he took any questions said, look, the context was not correct in what I said. I was not picking either one of those guys. They're both superstars. So it's more about Jason Kidd trying to stir something up. And look, he got the attention. He started the conversation. He knows people want to start talking about controversial stuff like that. But to the Celtics' credit, they have matured to a point where they're not buying into any of that stuff. They have been to the finals before and lost because they did pay attention to stuff like that, and they wanted to do things a certain way. Now they're here. They're 14-2 in the playoffs. They were a 64-win team. They were the best team in the NBA because they didn't care about that stuff, because everybody in the team sacrificed, because everybody understands that winning takes everybody. And sometimes it's going to be your night to score. Sometimes it's going to be your night to pass. Some nights it's going to be your night to stand in the corner and be a decoy. And everybody's willing to do that. And so who's the best? It doesn't matter. When they all have rings, then they'll be happy and no one will care.
Know the ins and outs of this year's NBA Finals by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today, Locked On Celtics, and Locked On Mavs on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Thanks for making Locked On Sports Today your first listen. Coming up, what can we expect from the series as it heads to Texas? Don't mess with Texas. Before we get to that, the New York baseball teams were involved in a couple of thrilling games. Summertime means baseball, the NBA Finals, the Stanley Cup Finals, and more. You can bet on it all at FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 you can use to bet everything from Finals MVP to who's going to hit one out of the park. In the Stanley Cup Finals, the Oilers and Panthers are ready for the puck to drop in Game 2. The Panthers favored to take the 2-0 series lead over the Oilers. FanDuel has the money line minus 142 for Florida. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and add a big win to your summer bucket list. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. If you're catching this episode of Locked On Sports Today after hearing your favorite Locked On show, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. The New York Mets earned a dramatic series split in London against the Phillies.
What a Mets victory we got. If y'all woke up early, or maybe not early, but, early for a Mets game for a 10 a.m. start. You watch this team really battle to maintain some pride here, get a split against a Phillies team that's just flatly better than them, and it was a roller coaster ride to get there. This team battled back from being down twice, and the bullpen, they really bent, but they did not break with great help from their new stud catcher, Luis Torrens. Man, he really had himself a game, and I think he's going to be staying with the Mets for a period of time.
They might have got the win, but Mets owner Steve Cohen took an L, saying he thought the food in London was better than the food in New York. How are Mets fans going to respond to that? Not great, Bob. The New York Liberty beat the Washington Mystics and will host the Commissioner's Cup final on June 25th against the top team in the Western Conference.
You look at last year's Cup. I mean, we got a championship preview essentially from the Commissioner's Cup, which I think was really cool, fed into a lot of discussion during the postseason. Like, I think the in-season tournament is something that's worked really, really well for the NBA as well. And I think they implemented it after the W did, and it was sort of successful on this side. So yeah, I think it's just sort of an interesting way to keep things engaged, to honestly make the conferences matter a little more. I think that's always valuable to kind of foster some of those rivalries a little bit more.
Caitlin Clark did not make the Paris Olympic team on the women's side, but she's not letting that Olympic snub get her down. In fact, she's using it as fuel.
Honestly, no disappointment. Like, I think it just gives you something to work for. It's a dream. Hopefully one day I can be there, and I think it's just a little more motivation. We remember that, and Hopefully in 4 years, when 4 years comes back around, I can be there.
Did you have a direct conversation with managing director or whomever's over there at USAB recently?
Yeah, they
the roster.
Honestly, no disappointment. Like, I think it just gives you something to work for. It's a dream. Hopefully one day I can be there, and I think it's just a little more motivation. You remember that, and hopefully in 4 years, when 4 years comes back around, I can be there.
Luka Doncic did a lot of Luka Doncic things. 32, 11, and 11 with 4 steals in this one. But the Mavericks fall into a 2-0 hole, a 105-98 loss in Boston. Nick Angstadt in Boston at the arena. He joins me now from Locked On Mavericks. And Nick, this is the second game in a row. Luka Doncic has done basically everything that he can, or at least something close to it. And everyone else has just not been quite where they need to be. How can they make that switch in game 3 moving forward?
Yeah, it's on Kyrie. I mean, you really just look at his stats the last couple of games. This one's 7 of 18 from the field, 16 points. The Mavs don't have that third guy to be able to create their own offense out of nothing like that. PJ Washington did an okay job, or did a great job for him. 17 points, was able to attack closeouts and attack some of the smaller defenders of the Celtics. And so, like you said, nobody else. But I think PJ Washington can hang his hat on a pretty good game in this one. It comes down to Kyrie. If Luka and Kyrie and this Mavericks team are going to win 4 games against the Celtics, they have to be great together in all 4 of those games. They did not get a great Kyrie game in either one. Peter, they didn't give an acceptable Kyrie game in either of them, considering who he is as a player, how he's been in this playoff run, and the fact that even in games against the Thunder, where he struggled to score because of their defense and the way that they were defending against him, he was at least able to contribute in other ways defensively. Double-digit assist games, things like that. He's not even doing that right now. And when you look at Kyrie's game, you say, well, the crowd was just Kyrie sucks over and over again. He was egging them on at a certain point. After game 1, he said, I thought it was going to be louder. And so they put that quote on the video board before the game, put it up in front of everybody, and then the crowd got even more into it. They were just over and over again. And so if you're Kyrie Irving and you're going to try and egg on the crowd, if you're going to try to feed into this and embrace it, you've got to respond in a productive way. And he absolutely did not in either of these games.
The shooting has been a big problem for the Mavericks. Under 26% from 3 in each of the first 2 games. You're probably not going to win a lot of games in the playoffs if that's the way you shoot it. How do you feel about the looks that they're getting? Is this something that you could just get back to Dallas? Some of the role players are going to make the shots that maybe they're missing right now.
Yeah, the Mavs only take most of the Mavs only really take good three-point looks because they don't have incredible shooters, right? They're the exact opposite of the Celtics in that way, where the Celtics have a ton of shooters that can take a bunch of different threes all over the place. Luka and Kyrie obviously can take them, but Kyrie 0 for 3 again, so he's now 0 for 8 on threes in this series. PJ misses a couple, Derek Jones Jr. misses a couple, Maxey misses a couple, Josh Green misses a couple. Like, none of the role players got any of those threes to fall, and they were all pretty open threes from all those role players. So you hope that going back home, role players play better at home. They make some shots. That's happened in some of the series the Mavs have played this season. And so you hope that changes. But this Mavs team has proven that they can win games. They're not going to knock down threes. It just becomes a lot harder for them to do so, and impossible if Kyrie's going to play the way he did in this one.
Yeah, the non-Luka Doncic Mavs made a total of 2 3-point shots in this one. That is just not going to work out when you're trying to beat a 60-plus win Boston Celtics team. The defense has, at least in most cases, been good enough in all of this. So if you're trying to project moving forward, like, okay, the defense has been fine. How do you create some better offense that's not just like, hey, Kyrie, please make some shots?
Honestly, Jason Kidd through this whole season, and one of the reasons why I had a frustration with Jason Kidd throughout this season and obviously last season and some other points, is because he has openly said, and he could be tongue-in-cheek joking about this, but I think he's saying the quiet part out loud, Peter. Kyrie and Luka are the scheme. They are the scheme. They are the offense. That's the whole thing. He said that several times throughout his tenure with the Mavericks. And if those guys are going to be your scheme, then all of a sudden, if one part of your scheme isn't working and the other part of your scheme has 20 points in the first 14 minutes, ends up with a triple-double in the final, 30-point triple-double in the finals, and is dealing with multiple injuries where he's compromised too, you've got a problem. I mean, you just got a real problem. I'm just going to keep bringing everything back to Kyrie because they were in this game late. And this Mavs team, when you get games late and you are in it and you've mucked it up and you've made it so the Celtics are shooting 18% from three, and yes, they missed a bunch of open looks. I thought their offensive process was very good throughout this game. But you get that opportunity in front of you, you get down to crunch time and clutch time, and all of a sudden Kyrie can't deliver and Luka can't deliver because of injuries. You're like, all right, we need somebody else to step up. It just didn't happen. They couldn't get it done, and to me, it lays on Kyrie's shoulders.
Stay up to date on the association all year by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On NBA on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Coming up, the New York Giants offense now goes through Malik Nabers. The retirement of Darren Waller brings into question exactly what weapons Daniel Jones has to work with. As Locked On Giants host Patricia Traina points out, Malik Nabers now takes the spotlight despite never having played an NFL game.
Again, the expectation was that he would be someone who could maybe take some of the onus off of, Saquon Barkley, who's no longer here. So now you look at the current lineup on offense, and they have Malik Nabers, the rookie wide receiver, who maybe becomes this year's version of Saquon, a guy that opposing teams have to account for, that they have to double up for, that they have to game plan for. And we're right back to where we kind of started from, in that if opposing defensive coordinators figure out how to take Malik Nabers out of the game, and keep in mind, Malik Nabers is a rookie. He is yet to play a professional down. And while there's optimism that he is going to be a good one for the Giants, he's yet to show it at the NFL level. So now, you're an opposing defensive coordinator. If you take Malik Nabers out of the game, who do the Giants have that can, maybe take some of the onus off of Malik Nabers? They don't have Saquon anymore. Right now, Daniel Jones, the jury is still out on him as to whether or not he can beat you. The running game, Devin Singletary is not a bad running back, but a little different runner than Saquon. So it's kind of a blow to lose Darren Waller, because, again, when healthy, he was a guy that you had to account for. And, he did what he had to do. I'm not sitting here and saying, the bum, how dare he leave the Giants. I understand from a human perspective what he must have gone through and how difficult this was, especially to leave over $10 million on the table in base salary. But, this is where we're at with the Giants. This is the impact that Waller's retirement is going to put on the team. It's not intentional. He did what he had to do.
This is undoubtedly true. Malik Nabers is now the engine of this Giants passing game, for better or for worse. If he does well, this Giants offense can do well, which is a damning indictment of the Giants' decision to pay Daniel Jones what they paid him. It never made sense. You can't pay a quarterback like a bus driver when they are a passenger on the bus. And Daniel Jones was always so clearly getting his little coin purse out, getting his little pass, and paying. He's not driving the bus. He's sitting. He's got the iPods in. He's the iPods. I'm dating myself on that one, but the AirPods in. He's listening to a podcast on there. Like, he's probably listening to Locked On Sports Today. Unfortunately, on this episode, talking about how he's not the guy who's driving things in New York. It's the other guys. It's Brian Daboll. It's the offensive line and their inability to block. This is not great. Now, getting a player like Malik Nabers, who has the ability of Malik Nabers, who can be as explosive and dynamic as Malik Nabers, that's awesome. But you'd rather it be with a quarterback who can elevate the other guys too, and that's just not what the Giants have. And finally, Carlos Alcaraz is barely old enough to drink, and we're running out of superlatives already. He became the youngest man to win Grand Slam titles on all three surfaces after defeating Alexander Zverev in 5 sets to capture the French Open on Sunday. The match lasted 4 hours and 19 minutes. Federer, Djokovic, Nadal, Alcaraz. I mean, it may be early, but I was doing it 21. Not nearly as cool as what this guy was doing. It involved A lot more beer pong, I'll tell you that. If you're catching this episode after hearing your favorite Locked On show, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. Also, if you're a new subscriber to Lost, we're here for you with the biggest stories in sports every day. Coming up on the next Locked On Sports Today, will the Stanley Cup be one step closer to residing in South Beach? So at least until tomorrow, stay locked on sports today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
For more episodes of Locked On Sports Today, go to our video on demand. Click on Sports at the top of your screen. There, you'll find past episodes of Locked On Sports Today, plus other Locked On shows on demand.